We've now got a few minutes left, probably about 5 minutes left, and I wanted to talk about what some people have experienced having read the book. And I found that when you've actually understood this, and you've actually grasped it, and you've got to grips with it, and you know what happened on 9/11 with regard to how the World Trade Center was destroyed, it's actually difficult to convey this to other people. And one of the problems is that there's this phrase: it's easier to fool someone than to show them that they have been fooled. Right? So it's very difficult, for example, to explain to people that have followed Richard Gage, for example, to show them they've been fooled. It is very, very difficult. Again, yes, it gets harder. And I've even heard people say that, for example, even if it were true that no planes crashed into the towers, I wouldn't tell anyone. That's not what you do if you're in some kind of process of telling people the truth. You don't decide to not tell them the truth because they're not going to like it.
Lying for truth.
Yeah, it's lying for truth. And that people say the same things. You can't talk about energy weapons. It's just people won't understand it. Actually, that's not been my experience for those that are willing to listen. I think the
people understand evidence. You can see what happened.
That's right. You must stick to the evidence to show people what the truth is. And when you go towards speculation or you go towards insults or ridicule, you're going away from the evidence. And you'd have to leave people to decide how to deal with the implications of that evidence. Some people don't want to listen. Some people don't want to know.
And it's evidence. It's not theory, speculation, ideas, whatever. It's evidence.
That's
evidence that anybody can look at and come up with the same conclusion if they're honest.
That's right. And I think that one of the problems that becomes apparent is that the implications of what you find is so enormous that it causes a fundamental shift in your consciousness if you really get it in, if you get to grips with it, if you understand it. It really changes your understanding of how the world works and what's really going on. And this was expressed to me as well in another message I received, I think about a week ago, and I kind of experienced, like, you go through a barrier, you go into another place, and you see this bigger picture, and it becomes clearer, it becomes more real, and it's like you've gone through this barrier, and there are very few people that are on the other side of this barrier, and the view is very, very different. The view of the world is very different. And some people have an aversion to getting through this barrier, and they're looking at other directions. This is why much of what we're talking about becomes a personal journey, and you have a personal transition or a transformation even, and you can't direct.
Well, it is somewhat analogous to realizing that the Earth is spherical, somewhat, and not flat.
Right.
Even if everyone around you is saying the Earth is flat.
It is very much like that. It's very much like that. And often you can't directly convey this feeling to anyone else because they haven't seen what you've seen. They can't understand what you understand because they haven't seen the evidence. They haven't worked through it all. They haven't put it all together. It's a bit like when you're trying to explain things to maybe a younger child and you realise that they don't have the life experience and understanding to, understand what you're trying to explain to them, because they've never experienced it. And another problem really is the cover-up itself. The cover-up is so enormous that people can't accept, for example, that people like Dame Wigington and Richard Gage are actually part of the cover-up. They can't accept that. They cannot accept why these people seemingly, seem to have made sacrifices, are actually part of the cover-up. It's very difficult for people to come to terms with that. And, and I get accused of, attacking people and so forth. And it's just, that's not what I'm doing. I'm showing people that what they're saying is not true. That's not the same as attacking somebody. I'm trying to illustrate that they're not telling the truth, which, for when they're running a truth movement, they should be telling the truth. Now we have another caller. It's Matt in, I think, SD,
South Dakota.
Yes, I'm not so familiar with these abbreviations for US states. So we could speak to Matt if he's still there. Matt still there?
Hello, Matt.
Just wanted to make a quick comment regarding actually reading the book itself. I am more of a YouTube junkie, and I had watched both of you've done a lot of videos together on YouTube. I've watched them all many times and kind of put off getting and actually buying the book for a while because I figured I more or less knew, the gist of Dr. Wood's research and yours as well, Mr. Johnson. However, I really wanted to urge anyone out there to actually buy the book because there's so much more in there than has been conveyed in the YouTubes, as informative as they are. And so any of you out there on the fence about it, just buy the book, read it again, and it's hard to explain how it will change your paradigm. So thanks again for all that you do.
So you have read the book now. You did get the book?
I have. I've read it. Just got done reading it a second time, and the second time, really, it just crystallized even more, especially the seismic data.
Great. Well, Matt, I really appreciate your call. It's great to hear from you. I'm glad that you've actually taken the time. I mean, somebody popped up on Facebook, and he was saying he didn't have time. He was wanting to ask a question, but he didn't have time to look at the link that I sent him. And but you're the opposite end of that. You've taken the time. You started off with the videos, and you thought, right, I'm going to have to get the book and look at it. And you've now hopefully got the benefit from that. I know it's a very disturbing picture which emerges, but hopefully internally you feel that you've now, as you said, you've got this new paradigm to work from, and it's
yes. One other quick comment. Sorry to interrupt. One other quick comment, if I may. It's just a pleasure to hear you. You were mentioning how you weren't attacking Mr. Gage, and I agree. I have a Facebook page where I actually spend a great deal of time sort of attacking Mr. Gage. Hehowever, I feel like I'm just holding him accountable for the statements that he's made. And the truth is, he's either incompetent or a liar, and I have a hard time believing he's incompetent. So it's not like I enjoy thinking of him as a liar, as well as Dr. Judy Jones and Alex Jones, David Ray Griffin. I mean, that's not what we want to do. But when you look at the evidence, and when they're not willing to talk about half of the evidence, it is what it is, and we have to call it how it is. And it's not always fun and pleasant, but we just have to press on with the truth.
You're absolutely right, Matt. I mean, I couldn't have put it better myself. So I really thank you for saying that.
Having read the book, you probably also realize that the idea of thermite coming down from the sky toasting the roofs, there's plastic lights or polycarbonate lights on the police cars on the roofs that aren't melted. They aren't melted, but the inside is totally toast.
When you realize, I believe the thermite garbage for a few years, and so I'm kind of sheepishly embarrassed that I wasn't able to figure it out sooner. But when you really turn your brain on and think about it.
Okay, Matt. Well, thank you very much. We've got a wrap now. That's great. Lovely to hear from you, and thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Dr. Wood. And maybe we'll do this again sometime. Thank you so much, everyone, and thanks to people at RBN.